Lesson 35. We continue reading from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, chapter 2, about the philosophy of the Kleshas, which is in fact the science of misery. More precisely, the science of how to deal with misery and how to avoid it. And to do so, Patanjali gives us deep insight into how misery occurs. We have arrived at Sutra 13, chapter 2. As long as the root is there, it must ripen and result in lives of different class, length, and experiences. This sutra is related to the Buddhist idea that a soul has to reincarnate 1 million times to reach liberation. The reason why we need to live 1 million lives, according to Buddhism and yoga philosophy also, 1 million lives of misery basically, is out of ignorance. It is because of ignorance that we keep making the same mistakes again and again, blaming the outside world for the misery that results from it. So there yoga comes in. Not only yoga, any form of practice that leads to increased consciousness, ability to contemplate the essence of matter, leads to insight into what causes our misery. So Patanjali here is saying, as long as the root exists, the karma, it's referring to karma, we continue to have to suffer from it. So the whole idea of spiritual practice, not only yoga, is to what is called is burning karma. We need to burn up our karma. And you do that in a practical way. You do that simply by being aware what causes it, insight into the law of cause and effect. And that also means that you have to overcome ego, because ego is responsible for not taking blame and always blaming outside factors. So you need to overcome ego, start objectively looking at the root, the cause, and we then will always find some involvement of ourselves in any misery or suffering that we go through in life. It doesn't mean that the people who are involved in the misery and are causing the misery are free from blame, but that is their responsibility. As long as we keep focusing on their faults, we will just continue to attract these kind of behaviors causing the misery. So just forget about other people. That is their portion in life to deal with. We just need to look at what it is inside us that attracts these people's behavior, causing the misery, the conflict. And in the end, that may lead to the development in which you say, I don't want to associate with that person anymore. But for the rest, it's their problem. People have a tendency to blame and to correct people. It doesn't work. In the end, it doesn't work. It leads to even more frustration. It leads to conflict, more conflict. We just need to look at ourselves, and any corrections that need to be made within ourselves. And when we understand what it is that attracts other people's bad behavior, we need to try to avoid that within ourselves. And when we succeed, we will then find out that it actually works, that we stop attracting these kinds of conflicts to us. So that is what this sutra is about. It also means, in a practical sense, if you believe in reincarnation and if you believe in the idea that a soul needs to go through 1 million reincarnations to solve all their karma and reach enlightenment, it means a shortcut is available. You can reduce the amount of lives of misery that you need to go through once you solve your ignorance, once you develop consciousness that allows you to honestly and objectively have insight into where the misery is coming from. Sutra 14. They have joy or sorrow for their fruit, according as their cause is virtue or vice. This is very simple. We talked a little bit about this concept at the beginning, at the introduction of the philosophy of the Kleshas. He who lives by the sword dies by the sword. But in the Netherlands we have a typical expression that says, if you it's based on old traditions, old habits, but if you go through the land with your head in your hand, all doors will open. That means if you behave in a courteous way, polite, friendly, then you will be met with courteousness, politeness and friendliness. So the situations that we find ourselves in with the environment, with other people, is basically a mirror, a reflection of the energy that we radiate. So interaction with people and relationships are very instrumental in this. Personal relationships, close relationships, are very instrumental in discovering ourselves, our true characteristics, which for most people are simply not known. People do not realize the impression that they radiate upon the environment. It's also very interesting if you understand how this works and you actually do some effort to take control, you will soon find out that it really works. If you've always found yourself in conflictuous situations where people start to behave in nasty ways, unfriendly ways, unpleasant ways, and the day that you realize that there is a part of you that is responsible for that, and you try to avoid it and replace it with a more positive vibration, you will see that it instantly has result in how people will treat you, how people will react to you. It's a very satisfying process when you see that it immediately works. It sounds very complicated, but actually very simple. It is not easy though. Simple as it is not easy, because it means we have to control impulses that are deeply ingrained in us. Sutra 15. To the people who have developed discrimination, all is misery on account of the pains resulting from change, anxiety and tendencies, as also on account of the conflicts between the functioning of the gunas and the vrittis of the mind. This sounds very complicated, but it's actually related to... This is one of the issues that we call one of the diseases of the disciple. People who develop increased consciousness become more aware of their environment, themselves, their past, but also the environment, the people and animals and nature around them. And as a result, you're more vulnerable towards suffering. So, one of the diseases of the disciple is that people who start out on the path of spirituality go through a period of increased instability. While spiritual practice, while yoga promises increased stability, more peace of mind, it actually, there is a stage in the beginning where your transformation is taking place at its highest, that we become we are open to the increased impressions from the outside world and impressions from the memories that have been latent but now start to rise to the surface of our consciousness. So that is what the sutra in the first part is referring to. Change, anxiety and tendencies are big factors of disturbance in people's lives. It is the reason why we want stability, safety, security. And it is also the reason why we thrive when there is safety, stability and security. A change can be very disruptive. When we lose our job, we have to find another job and adapt to the new environment. Also, the number one and the number two on the list of biggest disruptors caused by change is the number one is the loss of a partner, when a partner dies. And the second one is actually moving house. When you move to another part of town or another country, that is so disruptive that it causes huge stress in people. Anxiety is fear, is worries, doubt, is everything in the root chakra, in Muladhara chakra. Fear is the biggest influencer of our thought processes, and also in all the decisions that we make. Fear is the biggest influencer, and if we're not aware of that, it is kind of paralyzing, because we anticipate things that haven't even happened yet and may never happen, but we allow them to determine how we decide on certain things that can change our lives, but then do not even get a chance to change our life because we, out of fear, out of anxiety, we simply won't go there. One of the things that we can avoid, and I think I mentioned it before, is the bucket list. Because a bucket list is something, it's a luxury that we can have a bucket list. Things that we want to see in our lives, want to pursue in our life, want to experience in our lives. And I think if you want to have a bucket list, enjoy it, but be aware simply of the fact that it can be a source of anxiety. Because a bucket list is a bucket list because you have a number of items on it that you want to check off. And just the idea that you won't be able to ever complete, to fulfill your bucket list might be an avoidable source of anxiety. That's why I think it's kind of a luxury, because it shows that life for the rest is pretty stable and pretty good, and that there are no worries about other essential things in life. Tendencies is about habits. You read your newspaper every morning, although these days you have the internet, of course. But as an example, you drive a bus to school or to work every day. So you have your routine. You wake up at a certain time. You prepare. You go to the bus station, and You have your destination, your determined route. Maybe you have to transfer. But now the government decided to build a new subway line, which is happening all the time. They're building very fast in Seoul. And the moment that the subway opens, many buses are being cancelled. The subway is supposed to take these passengers to their destinations in another way. But the first time when that happens, you freak out because now everything has to change. You need to figure out where you have to get off and maybe find another bus number to get to where you want to be, and sometimes it won't work out in a practical way. So change can be very disruptive and cause for instability, suffering, basically. So when you know that, you try to approach these things in a very practical way, lackadaisical almost. Although that sounds a little bit negative, the word I'm looking for is laconical. Have just, well, you know, it changed, and in the end, it is an improvement for the better. Just try to have a positive thought processes as opposed to freaking out and first get upset and then settle down into the new situation afterwards anyway. So avoidable if we take control of the emotion that is being triggered. All right, that was lesson 35. Let's have a short break.